Alrighty, welcome back to Shaman King 2021 Anime Review Episode 13. Reviewing the 13th episode of the anime, and Yep. Now this episode covers the chapters of 77 to 85. Roughly 9 chapters. Yeah, I actually kind of miscounted a lot. I was like, I thought it went to 78. Nope, it went straight to 76 last week, that's interesting. Also, this is the first one since episode 9 to cover this much. Of course, 9 covered 11 frickin' chapters. So yeah, we actually got part way into like a chapter published in this book right here. I'd say about halfway through it. Yeah. But in the case of, actually they stop at chapter 84, and for 85 they just adapt like a couple pages. Because I think they're going to adapt the rest of it next week. Yeah, I think next week we're going to finish that book up. And they're probably going to pass chapter like, I'd say like 89-ish. Let's see. Because I remember it's like 2 pages of this chapter they just go through for like chapter 85. Because it seems like, though, they go part way into... That's what it seems, so. It seems like, look like they could have gone part way through the chapter, but they like couple pages. But yes, so... The episode starts out with everybody simply preparing that we're going to the Shaman fight off in the Patch Village in the United States. And now, basically, I'll go for these particular orders. We have Ryu basically just preparing by himself with, of course, Ashimaru and of course Yu's guardian spirit. They're there preparing for the fight, and then of course we'll see Yo and Anna, where they're basically preparing the last night together for quite a while. And she asks, "Can we sleep together?" And he says, "Yes." And of course he gives her new training outfits, and his grandfather gives him some stuff. Yep. Oh yeah, by the way, they also before that Menta is seen briefly talking to Yo, and that's all that we see Menta the whole episode, which is interesting to say the least. In the case of Hanamaru, the guy who's basically the snowboarder of the group, he of course is saying goodbye to his sister and look like a hotel room, and then they go meet up at where this airport. This looks like this air base where they're gonna fly to the U.S. And there they run into Ren, who decided not to basically meet together and then go there. He's already there just chowing down on some dumplings. And they go out from their area to basically chat for a bit. And this is basically where Yo meets Ho. Yes. Now, their relationship is quite unique. You see, Ho is Yo's twin brother. They don't reveal that here. They don't reveal that until much later in the series. Now, Yo does know about Ho, but this is the first time they've ever actually met, and it's very similar. They chat for a bit. We have Hetero, who gets briefly attacked by his guardian spirit, which is his fire beast. And then they decide to stop fighting. Of course, they're technically not really supposed to be fighting right now. And then all of a sudden, oh look, there's the patchwork plane. I'm like, okay, this jumbo jet itself, like, looks a little different than the airplane that they saw. I thought they were flying this cargo plane, but no, flying this jet, and it looks like basically like a private jet. Not like basically like a corporate private jet. Basically, you get to have the chairs move backwards, get martinis, stuff like that. I personally have never been in a private jet, but that's what I can tell by looking at the inside, seeing in movies, and seeing people who actually had those. In the case of this one, looked like a regular commercial jet. And yes, I have flown a commercial jet, but not this one per se. No, this one had like 3 rows in it. The ones I've usually flown on, though I think my dad and my mom basically flew on different plane flights, where they have like section here, section middle. Yeah, basically they have 3 sets of seats. Yes, and this is not a packed flight. No, there's actually some empty seats here. And I'm thinking like this whole flight. I'm thinking like, are they gonna have like food in this flight? Oh yeah, and this flight is supposed to be 12 hours. Yes, it's a 12-hour flight. And here's the thing: they don't actually go to the Patrick Village this flight. Nope, because it turns out this plane is not an actual plane. It's a giant oversoul. What's interesting? Also, they cut this out from the anime. Yeah, Faust is on this plane. We actually see Faust on the plane, which is interesting because he's in the manga. I'm not sure why they cut his little bit out of the anime. I thought that was kind of weird. It basically just acknowledged, oh yeah, here's Faust, the guy who sent, well, Yo and Menta to the hospital. And everybody's all falling out the sky. Ho basically going, hey, you want to ride with me? He's like, nah. And then, of course, they all use their oversouls to push themselves to the ground. So the five guys simply just got to figure out what to do next. And they're at Route 66. That's interesting. And, of course, you have Ryu using his own special way of basically using a lift. Having his guardian spirit basically form a giant thumb. And then here's Billy, the hitchhiker. Okay, so they just ride to the closest town. He doesn't know anything about the Patchwork Village. Yeah, they actually don't. They actually got a little bit of information about this guy. Oh, and in case you're curious, though, do they actually move this guy up in the original anime? Oh yes, they do. And then they cut a bit out here, which it's fine. This particular bit where they go around asking various people. Yeah, they kind of mentioned they did kind of off screen, mind you, or asking various people. They do ask one librarian. And of course, then they go outside. Now, I should point out, though, this scene is very similar to how presented in the original series. Now, the woman they meet, Leandra, who actually is in the manga, and I think she's in the original anime, if I'm not mistaken, but what happens to her after this encounter, like, the very next day, that never happened in the original series. She just stopped appearing after, like, one episode because she was perfectly fine, but I'll get to that. So she briefly fights the five, and then she reveals what happened 500 years in the past, where this mysterious man who appears to be a devil, where he kills 5 warriors from this forgotten tribe, from this like lost tribe, which some people do know about, and he basically has the same spirit of Ho's god in present day. Then of course we actually have like, now I should point out they actually do cut a little bit out here. Like right after they wake up, and then like 3 guys just basically just start talking down to her, and then of course we have Hetero, who just basically just brings out his own snowboard and whacks the 3 of them, and of course starts laughing it off about Battlefield. In the manga, the guys themselves actually some of their oversouls too, but they cut this out of the end, probably due to time constraint. That's my personal guess, and probably give Hetero some time to shine. So they go back to her place. Well, it looks like an abandoned school building. And apparently she gave the information the next day, which is very similar to manga. And then what happens next is interesting. Like, very interesting. Oh my gosh. Like, okay, after she's kind of fulfilled her role about the... They also mentioned that Ho was around. Like, oh, and... Like, we actually know who this is. This is Ho. This is not some devil. This is Ho. A guy we met in present day. And she's shocked the fact he's a competitor in this fight. And then, of course, the very next day, we have the guys walking off, and of course, she goes off basically. Now, in the original show, nothing happened to her. But what happened next? Oh boy! Yeah, this is actually from the manga, which this didn't happen in the original series. Ho has his spirit basically grab her by stabbing her through the belly, like with the creature's fingers, and reveals, oh yeah, this is spirits from the Patchwork tribe. This is one of their guardian spirits, and that was me. Oh yeah, he was just temporary host, and I basically, and oh yeah, you have fulfilled your role, so I'm gonna kill you. So he pretty much vaporizes her. Like, oh my gosh. This is probably by far the first actual death scene in the series, because if you watch the original anime, technically nobody dies in the original anime. This one, oh yeah, this is somewhat graphic. Like, This spirit burns her to a crisp. A woman. Very lovely one, mind you. Who's got like a mark on her face. Looks like a piece of jewelry. I kind of thought that they would keep this woman, might keep her around, may change with manga. Oh no, they just kill her off. Like, wow. This is quite something. Now, yes, she did serve a purpose. But I would kind of thought, though, they would have just left her alone, just not bother with her. Nope, let's just have Ho just kill her. And the next week, we're going to have the anime, this anime's debut of Lysrick. Yes, Lysrick. He is a guy who is named after a drug that Sherlock Holmes used to use. Yes, seriously. And this guy is very heavily inspired by Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, fun fact about this character. And a lot of anime I watch. He is one of two who is heavily inspired by Sherlock Holmes. The other being Conan. Well, aka Sichi from Case Closed. Yeah, one of two. I originally watched the Shaman King anime, I think it was about 4 years ago, I think it was. Yeah, it was actually one of those big anime that I watched because I just felt like it. And plus, the guy who created the Shaman King manga was no friend of Oda's, so I decided to basically go check it out. The original series was pretty fun, though that was like 64 episodes, and it had an original ending, which was pretty interesting, but was not the end of the manga. Nope. Excuse me. Yes, so in the span of 13 episodes, we've already gotten to chapter 84, which is interesting. In fact, we got this far. Yep. 84. Like, wow, 84 chapters. Well, I would say at the first 84, they still have never adapted the series chapters 3 through 5. I haven't seen them adapted for the series. Nope. Oh, they make one change here from the manga, and that's the outfits that Yo and Ren wear. Because in the anime, in the case of Yo, he is wearing his regular attire, the one he wears to school. Ren wears his outfit, his battle attire. Unlike what he does in the manga, we wear some kind of regular civilian clothes, a little more covering for him. Not really sure why they changed these two attires for the anime. Yes, there's no real explanation for it at all. And aside from that change of clothing and the cut little bit, okay, now in the case change of clothing, I don't have a really big problem with it at all. In the case of cutting out the bit where the other guys said about their oversouls, that I thought was unnecessary to cut. And cutting out the little bit of them going around the town asking people, done in a very tiny montage, like lasting barely a minute, that was fine. I didn't have a problem with that at all because in the manga, this lasts about 3 or 4 pages. In the chapter they took us from. Yeah, but the changes were fine. Yeah, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing exactly what they're going to do for next week for the series. Yep, which is going to be the 14th episode in the anime. Yep, so yeah, that's a particular review. Stay tuned for my first review for Jobless Incarnation, which I'm going to work on that next, okay? To the next video. Bye.